yapping for like 10 minutes at least, and I realized my camera died. 50% of my audience are Americans. Yeah, you guys got a toughie going on. Well, I'm not going to, talk about this topic about this woman who was just attacked by ICE. I'm not going to go into details about the whole situation because I think that you guys are probably aware of this. What I want to say is that to all people who are like commenting under videos that are discussing this, saying things like, oh my god, even North Koreans don't do that or something like that. Those countries that you were propagandized against, they're not the pinnacle of evil. Just forget about them and focus on what's going on in your country, because growing up in Siberia, I've never seen 3 cops attacking one person. Even in protests and stuff, usually people would get arrested or like carried away. Haven't seen people just pulling out guns like this, okay? Just letting you know that not only is that not normal, but places in the world where you're constantly being told there's like oppressive regimes going on and stuff like that, don't see that type of shit happening either. So just so you know, this is not just like general concerning type of deal. What happened yesterday or the day before is going to be referred to in history books as the beginning of Civil War, I believe. And even though I do want to be having a very informed conversations, and even today we're going to be talking about Vanity Fair and their photo shoot of the White House staff, I also don't want to fearmonger specifically as much as I want you to understand the gravity of the situation, start looking into how this can be stopped. Well, at the same time, today we're going to start with the Vanity Fair thing, and maybe we will arrive at something more chill later on. I don't want you to feel defeated. That's why, even while we're having these conversations, I don't want to be talking about it in a defeated tone, nor do I want to be talking about it in a way that is suggesting that everything is a lost cause or something like that. People have been in situations like this, they've been in situations worse than this, and they've changed their circumstances. So can we. I want to talk about Vanity Fair because this type of photo shoot comes once in fucking 300 years, bitch. This photo shoot will be in history books as well. I'm 100% sure of it, because it's just it's not very common to have this blend of things in a photo shoot be available not only to us as an audience, but also to be sprinkled with something a lot more real. Because the thing is, if you're not familiar, this guy, Christopher Anderson, took pictures of the White House staff, and the first picture that opens the article is pretty normal, I would say. One thing that did bother me about the conversation online when it comes to these photos is that a lot of them are actually very warm tone, but people kept on saying they're cool tone, and it drove me up the fucking wall. I don't know why, girl. It's not like it's that important, I guess. It's just so silly because it's like, girl, like, look at how yellow this shit is. Obviously, it's warm tone, but whatever. Okay, precursor to all of this. Christopher Anderson is a photographer. He's taken pictures of events that are quite intense. A lot of like going to war zones, taking pictures there, stuff like that, right? So it's photojournalism. It's not, editorial photography where you blur everything out, where you like do this and you do that and you do this special effects or some other shit like that, compose the picture out of pieces or whatever, so there's no imperfection or things that are distracting from whatever you're trying to portray. This is very real, usually not retouched as much as other photography. I think that with a lot of photojournalists of today, a lot of people still retouch images because, as I've said before, we have a really big issue with criticism and people accepting criticism as like a thing that is part of the job of critics. I think I think that a lot of people who don't study criticism as a cultural tool, or critiques specifically, not even criticism, critiques, right? They might be confused about why so many people are saying that we don't have any more critiques, we don't have any more critics either, right? And the reason for it is not that we don't have a lot of people criticizing others. The difference between critique and a criticism is that a critique is usually professional type of deal. Usually it's someone who actually knows the craft that they are going to be giving a critique of. Usually it's done by people, for example, if you are critiquing art, you're critiquing visual art, you're usually someone who's trained in visual art, either actually doing it, but most of the time, what is more valuable in this line of work is art history, understanding the processes, maybe not even doing the art yourself with your hands as much as knowing how it's done and being able to point out where the artist has excelled and where they may have misstepped, in their process. Pointing out details that actually make sense of a work, showing what worked about it, what didn't. This type of criticism that's actually done by professionals is quite rare because, first of all, journalism has been devalued to a crazy degree. But also, we are at a stage where being professional is seen as not ruffling any feathers, which is just not how anything works, honestly. Like if you do an equation, right, and you've made a mistake in the process, usually this is the reason why teachers want to see a process. Jesus fucking Christ. Why teachers want to see a process, right? They can tell you that you didn't do this particular step correctly and this is where everything went wrong, or where you kind of lost the plot. It's the same fucking thing in cultural output, like journalism, writing, things like art, things like politics, things like any humanities, like any humanity related studies. It's the same fucking shit. It's literally just as logical, just as structured, and there are things that work and don't work, things that can be improved upon, things that can't be improved upon. So being in this state where to be a journalist and to be considered a professional, you have to be toothless, it's a travesty. Genuinely, it's not good for our culture. It's not good for us politically. It's not good for us in any type of capacity. I have talked about it before that we are literally incapable of actually knowing the difference between criticism and a critique. And most of the time, the reason for it is that we have a lot of people, either people who don't have the time to get an education because they're getting picked up really early in their careers, right? There's no development stage anymore. Or we have people who don't have an education, don't have a good understanding because they're Nepo babies, for example, or they come from a very rich background where they're so insulated from the real world to the point where they've got nothing to contribute to it really because they don't even understand their own surroundings well enough. So having artists that are putting out bullshit, having a lot of the politicians saying bullshit because they don't get critiqued in a very, not only constructive way, but a way that can be heard because we are literally silencing people who are doing this, even algorithmically speaking, because we are relying on algorithms now to disseminate information, not radios or TV or anything like that. So we don't really have a lot of control outside of trying to game the algorithm with like comments, boosting shit, like giving likes or like watching for a long time to like have like a good performance of the video, whatever the hell, right? We don't have a lot of control when it comes to those things because I don't know if you ever noticed, but the censorship in terms of like even copyrights, I'm not even talking about other things, they have gotten a lot more unreasonable when it comes to YouTube and stuff. I've had things get strikes on my main channel for music and things that are not in the video. That's how ridiculous we have gotten there. I think that they're using AI now, and the worst part about it is that because they started using it, they don't just flag words, okay? They used to, we kind of have this thing going on where the algorithm, and that goes for any platform that we're commonly using today to disseminate information or to produce content that we consume or to consume the content that we watch, all of them have started to use AI to understand what the video is talking about. So before, whether it's TikTok or YouTube or anything like that, you could adjust the word that is triggering the algorithm to not show it or to demonetize it or anything of that sort. Now you can't really do that anymore because AI takes it contextually. It reads the entirety of the script and it understands, because of information being collected from other platforms where there's like typical words that are being censored and stuff like that with a synonym or a word that sounds like the other words, like two words put together or whatever the fuck, right? It knows those things now because they have to be explained to the audience somewhere, right? So even if you change the word, even if you censor yourself in terms of how you, like what you say and what words you're replacing, now it understands context. That's why it can give you this little AI overview at the bottom of the videos now. Even right now, there's probably an AI overview right in the inbox that tells you what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Not the entirety of it because they still want to entice you to watch it, but they will tell you what I'm talking about. Even if I replace every fucking word with some other word, at least like every noun that is controversial with another word is going to pick up on it. So if you want to keep seeing people on like whichever platforms you're using or whatever that are talking about your local concerns or federal concerns or anything, if you want to keep seeing people, maybe make, I don't even know at this point how we're going to have to get this information out and how we're going to have to combat this bullshit. Maybe make a list in your notes app or something of like pages, channels, articles that you find important. I don't know anymore, dude. I genuinely don't know. If you have suggestions, you can leave them in the comments. If you guys are, especially if you're working in anything related to internet or censorship or anything like that, you can leave your tips in the comments. But it's getting ridiculous. I have started to pick up on the fact that whenever I see someone who I've been following for a while on YouTube starting to really grow up in terms of like, I'm not 18 or 15 as I was when I was watching like videos about, people just like having a good time, la-di-da, whatever the fuck. I kind of noticed that whenever they start to change what they're talking about because they are adults that are struggling or they're dealing with something new, or they're just like growing up and they have more concerns about the world and the state of it, I noticed that they oftentimes disappear from my radar. So I kind of have to go out of my way to fucking find anything that actually is interesting or important to me. And whenever I'm somewhere for 30 seconds on some video that is super fucking right-wing, immediately my entire For You page changes to push their shit. Why did I, not interested in like anything like Botox or any like changing of the face, the body or something like that, why did I get videos about looks maxing and not talking about it like as in discussing what it is and like the phenomena itself and whatever the fuck? No. Videos of guys being like, I don't like this guy's some kind of clavicle bullshit in his name. Don't like his new haircut or whatever. Why am I getting this shit? Like to the point where it's getting pushed to people who would never fucking watch it. Me, okay? I've got no interest in watching that type of bullshit, yet I'm still seeing it. So basically, just get more vigilant about what you're seeing on your For You page. Do not be passive about what you are consuming online, because it will change who you are as a person. Over time, it's going to grind you down unless it's your job to be analyzing. Even then, I think it could grind you down. But if your job is being like a social worker, you're constantly faced with the reality of how people live and stuff like that, or other professions like that. If you're not constantly being faced with this bullshit, I think it can be removed by the algorithm from your peripheral. So just keep that in mind. God, my teeth are so fucking sensitive. Just like, you get dental work done and then they just make your teeth so fucking sensitive. And for what? Like I fucking asked. Anyway, The Vanity Fair photographs, I think that it's a good idea to read some of the passages, but the biggest thing about this article that's interesting to me is the photographs and their overall style. Let us get into some of the pictures first, and then I'll tell you something that I've heard people like kind of maybe criticizing the pictures in a sense, not really critiquing it maybe. The White House isn't just the home of the sitting president of the United States, it's also known as the the People's House, a symbol of democracy at work. Vanity Fair's Chris Whipple took readers inside the building and the inner workings of half dozen of Donald Trump's closest advisors, interviewing Chief of Staff Susie Wiles several times throughout the first months of Trump's second term, and speaking to Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Carolyn Levitt, and J.D. Vance, and others in a bombshell two-part feature. It's not written by Christopher Anderson, but Christopher Anderson is kind of the main person in this particular text where he's going to be explaining his approach, I guess. Anyway, Whipple has discussed his reporting process for the story, and now here's Anderson in conversation with Vanity Fair, taking us behind the scenes of the assignment that he almost turned down. And to answer the question on everyone's mind right away, Anderson says of those ultra tight shots, no, they're not cropped versions. I'm standing very, very close. Very interesting, by the way. So let me show you the photos first before we have any of these like conversations kind of get in the way. First and foremost, let me open this image like this. Yes. Whichever one of them it is, I think it's, I don't know. You know their names. I don't have to, I know Levitt, I know J.D. Vance for sure. I can tell them apart from everyone else. I don't fucking know exactly her name, but this is one of the photographs. It's really crazy to me that they haven't realized, I assume, that he was taking pictures that are gonna be that tight. It's either they're really dumb and they don't know anything about photography, which you don't really have to know enough. You don't have to know a lot to know that if someone is this close to your face, even if they're using a wide angle lens, brother, they're gonna be close as fuck. This is not gonna be a flattering image, however you fucking spin it. And I think it's either they didn't mind it or they're a bit dumb and they don't know how basic optical not even just basic photography works, which is just, it's very intuitive for us to understand that if you're standing this close, it's gonna be this fucking close. But the images, this in particular, I think it's really interesting because the thing is, it's both cold and warm when it comes to the close-up pictures. When people are talking about they're really cold images or whatever, this one, for example, I don't know if the background was blue or white, right? So it's hard to tell whether it actually was changed that much. But I do think it's really interesting that the colors in here, the yellows are turned up and the what is the name of it in English? Oh my god. Cyan is turned up. As you can see, it's really, really fucking up close. There's also this, he has a hair like just one lone hair growing out of his forehead. It's really confusing to me. And I want to actually give you a little bit of context that this photographer does this a lot, okay? This is kind of a thing that he's done even with other administrations, not just the Trump administration. I believe that he's done the same with Obama. I don't know if he's taken pictures of everyone who was working like in his close circle at the White House, or if it was just like the president, vice president, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I think the article that is of the photographer shows that he's not that aware of a lot of things, or at least he's the type of guy who thinks that, you know, the Trump administration, they're the bad guys, but like the Obama administration were the good guys, which is obviously like, brother, right-wing politics is not going to do anything good for us. Not a single person except for the oligarchs is going to benefit from this bullshit. But whatever. There's this moment where Marco Rubio changed his picture to this picture that kind of got everyone in a tizzy. Everyone was laughing because it's not really meme worthy in terms of like actually using it as like a reaction meme or something like that, but it is quite funny because he looks He's fucking small. How tiny is he? I don't know. Regardless of that, it's always going to be really funny to have this juxtaposition, obviously, of someone who is doing so much harm while at the same time being such a little dingus. It's the Hitler was a tiny little bitch, haha type of thing that is always going to be funny for everyone. But Marco Rubio changed his profile pic on, I believe, Twitter for a little bit to this photo that was kind of laughed at, and the interviewer said Marco Rubio briefly changed his profile picture to one of the pictures you made, and he responded, by he I mean the photographer responded, "You're kidding me, impressive, respect." Right, dude, whatever. Based on this article, JD Vance thought that basically Marco Rubio looked worse than him in this article. I don't think so. I think all of you look like doofuses, but it's just because you are what you are. There is no amount of retouching, fucking editing that can do anything for you, really, because it's kind of like we already know what kind of person you are when you speak. It's impossible to look at you in any other way than what you already are. And yeah, this is the part that's also quite controversial. So this is a photo of Caroline Levitt. The interviewer said one of the most talked about images is Caroline Levitt's and the injection marks you can see on her lips. And the photographer answered, "I don't believe in shaming anyone for their physical appearance, but she makes choices in how she presents herself and in how she alters her physical appearance that she presents to the world. I made a choice in photographing her choices in a way that is revealing about her choices." Okay. Right. This is why he's a photographer, not a writer, okay? It's okay. It's fine. "I made a choice in photographing her choices in a way that is revealing about her choices, and I didn't. I chose not to remove those things you see in the picture or to hide them or to minimize them." Is there anything that the internet comments have made you realize about your pictures? There's one art historian on the internet who keeps doing more updates on what she sees in the photos, and it's fascinating. Composition, references to historical paintings, all these things I'm endlessly entertained by. I didn't plan on starting the discussion, but there's a discussion at this moment about what the photographic image means purely in this day and age of AI, of social media, of filters, how we present ourselves, and sort of the whole discussion and perspective around the image and the photograph. And it's fascinating for me to watch that play out on the internet. Maybe we have sort of we've fallen asleep at the idea of what a photograph is and what a public image is. And watching that discussion play out on the internet has been pretty fascinating. Yeah. Sometimes looking at people who are younger than you makes you feel old as fuck. And in this case, like, it really does do that for me because makes you think, damn, is it time already for us to look like that? God, holy fuck. Whatever. I think there was this particular discussion that I wanted to address that a lot of people were obviously talking about the fact that this picture got the most engagement, mostly because people are misogynistic. I think so. Yeah, because the thing is, one of the things that is very natural to people is going for low blows when you don't like the person. And I'm not above that either, honestly. I try to be level-headed, okay? I try to be like, yeah, making jokes about her, like the fact that she's just like consistently trying to fucking create lips and stuff like that. By the way, if you don't have any lips, maybe leave it alone. I don't know. I'm not sure. Actually, do whatever the fuck you want. You don't need permission. Do whatever you want. But I think a part of it is the fact that it is very easy to basically choose the youngest woman in the room and like dogpile. I agree that it's definitely motivated by the fact that people are just like this close to hating and literally jumping and even murdering a woman just for like being annoying or something. There's definitely an aspect of misogyny, even to the fact that she got the most flack when it comes to her looks. But I also think that a part of it is the fact that you can visibly see the injection sites. I think that's what's gotten the most attention. Also, the era that we're in, people are obsessed with aging and stuff like that. It's just kind of what it is because of, honestly, I think people are getting dumber, and because people genuinely cannot keep up with even themselves from 5 years ago. And I think that it's part of the reason why is COVID, obviously. A lot of damage that it's done to brains. Anti-intellectualism is definitely not fucking helping. But it's really, really hard not to make fun of these people because it's kind of like part of the jester culture. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people, however, I do want to remind everyone that on one hand, I understand the importance of not mimifying these people. If you want to hear more about that, there's this woman on, I don't know if she only posts on TikTok or not, but I've seen her videos. Like the way that I learned about it was through TikTok. This woman, her username is Crutches and Spice, and her name is Imani. She talked about why like this creating memes about these people is kind of can be detrimental to us and to progress or to changing things. In my opinion, I think that there's definitely a certain level of people replacing some actions and actual things that they can do with either consuming media or with just creating jokes and stuff like that. Well, at the same time, I think it is very important to remind ourselves that these people are also, they are just people. I think it's hard to remember that when they are acting like they cannot be, like they're untouchable. You know what I mean? I think a lot of them, especially with the way that JD Vance has been talking recently, the way that he discusses everything, he's kind of like constantly trying to say that my job security is like basically bulletproof, yada yada. Sure, JD. Is that his actual name? Just like JD, just 2 letters. That's such a dumbass name, whatever. See, it's impossible not to make fun of them when they're like this. Like, they're such little losers. It's hard not to. I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying not to, like, mimify it or whatever the fuck. But it's just like, god damn it. I think a part of what is working about this, about us discussing them in this way and, like, making fun of them is the fact that at least some people that are very, very easily manipulated into thinking that these people are cool because of them having, like, being given this power that they don't deserve, shouldn't have, and misuse. It's important to make sure that in the cultural zeitgeist, people know that this is loser behavior and that they look like losers and that they are losers, you know? I think it is important because shame is a very useful tactic when it comes to correcting behavior. It just is. If you notice, especially with a lot of people who are not as conscious about their feelings and decisions and they are acting on impulse, a lot of those people are adjusting their behavior and they kind of have their ideas of what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable based on the majority. They're about, and you know, this is kind of maybe a cynical view, maybe not. Maybe it's a little bit an ungenerous view. I don't know. I'm not like married to this concept because I think it is reductive. But my family, like whenever we had discussions about these things, they kind of say like, no, like there's no such thing as like just human nature and that's it. Especially when people say that it's negative, right? That it's in our human nature to be dickheads. It's kind of bullshit. But also, it's the fact that there are about 20% to 10 to 20% of people who are just like assholes. They genuinely choose to do the fucked up thing, right? There's about 20% of people who genuinely choose to do a good thing without it being pushed onto them. This is just without it being a religious thing. They just logically approach things and still have their own kind of belief systems and stuff like that, and they choose to act one way or another. And then there's 60% of the population that have a And then there's 60% of the population that does what is acceptable. They will be veering more or less altruistic based on what society we're building. I believe in this, as I said, not 100%. I don't think it's like this hard numbers or something like that. But I think that our physical reality, the things that happen to us, the things that we experience on a daily, form us quite a bit. You know, you probably have noticed whenever you're hungry, or a lot of people that you know, whenever their sugar drops, they become snippier, right? Or whenever you haven't had good sleep, you might not be as quick to understand something, or you might gonna be more grumpy and likely to do something negative towards somebody else, especially if you're like sleep deprived for ages, if you haven't been able to see your doctor or take your medication and you're having withdrawals or something like that, you're gonna be more or less likely to do certain things. And I think it is the same for everything else. When society as a whole does not promote being a leech, a cryptocurrency selling little motherfucker, when being a scammer is not renamed into different professions, like for example, like insurance salesman or some shit like that, or a fucking Paul brother. That's a separate category of a job, being a Paul brother, by the way. In a society that does not reward this, there's gonna be less people who are hell-bent on doing it. It's just how it is. I don't know what to tell you. A lot of decisions that we make, it is dictated by our reality, by what we have to do in order to, at first, have the basics, and then earn, maybe not admiration all the time, but respect or a place in the world. And in this situation, this world where Caroline Levitt looks into your fucking soul this up close into the camera, in this world, we are rewarding this fucked up behavior. We are not only rewarding it fiscally, we're rewarding it with things like, God, one of the things that always pissed me off when I moved here is that everyone here, especially like even the older generation, which is not the case like back home, it's not the case. It's been changed quite a bit though. But regardless, the thing that's kind of bothered me a lot here is that everyone stops criticizing and they think that your critiques are irrelevant of somebody and their behavior and how destructive it is, or how fucked it is, or how like pathetic it is even. They kind of stop this critique or criticism and think that it's useless, specifically because that person gained money through their behavior. Just because you gain money through, for example, scamming people, does not make you an authority on anything. This is actually like, it should go against you. Do you know what I mean? Like the money that you gain through this means should be like evidence against your character, evidence that makes you see that person as fucked up. But in the West, it's like, whatever criticism you say, like even if you're like, damn, this person literally makes sure that children drink dirty, contaminated water every single day, and someone goes, yeah, but he's a billionaire, and they think it's an argument. They genuinely think that they just pulled out an actual argument in the conversation. This is how deranged this mentality is. All of this to say that I think it is entirely sculpted by society, by what we can collectively allow, things that we vocally see as desirable. Like, it should literally cut you out of society, this antisocial behavior, the way that, is it Peter Thiel? God, I can never remember their fucking names, but basically those billionaires like that are saying psychotic shit, it should cut you out of social life entirely. You should be not allowed to live amongst us. You should be forced to give up all of your possessions, return it back to where you stole it from, and then literally not be allowed to be amongst the human beings, because this is not normal behavior. It shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be allowed to be. Sorry to say. Even if, I don't care what means are used, this is just not normal behavior and shouldn't be allowed. That's it. Anyway, the photos here, there is something so funny, by the way, about these guys, I think a part of it is just how a streamer that tries to be, or like influencer that tries to be classy, this looks, it's just so aesthetically horrible. Like everything about this is like, are you sure? Where's culture? Where is anything of value? Where is anything human here? It's just absolutely crazy. And I think, honestly, there's nothing that special in terms of photographic quality. There's nothing special about it. I think that what's special about it is the fact that we got to see them in such an unflattering light, where you were so up close. We can actually physically see them really well to compare to what we usually see them as, where they're under really bright lights. Usually the photos are from far away, like here, right? So you don't get to actually see what those people look like in real life, because you do see people quite up close when you're having a conversation just across the table, for example, right? Funny to see people who are supposed to be photographed in a certain way. At least we're used to seeing political figures being photographed in a certain way. And also seeing them photographed from angles, for example, here. And once again, I don't know how tall he's supposed to be. This is the light. Good God, is he my height? That's not tall at all. Well, oh my God, maybe he's even shorter than me? That'd be crazy. Whatever. The lighting is very harsh, right? It casts really huge shadows. I feel like I have a pretty harsh lighting right now. You can see that it's also, leaving shadows and stuff. And it's really interesting to see him being photographed without the pretense and without the person trying to create propaganda material. Do you know what I mean? Like usually when pictures like this are taken, especially for things like Vanity Fair or things that are supposed to be more glamorous in a certain way, people don't take pictures from this angle. They don't take it from, wow, Illuminati, from this level, or even from this level. Like you don't usually take a picture from a little bit above. You try to go as low as possible to give them more of an imposing type of feel. So it is quite funny to see what this looks like, because not only is its frame kind of slightly off, slightly crooked, the light lampshade being like picking out, the flag being cut off, the figure himself, the JD dude, being this tiny, it's all part of an image that kind of undermines him, which is fantastic. But I don't think it was based on the answers of this photographer. It's either he's trying to kind of remove the responsibility off his shoulders, or he wasn't doing it on purpose at all, and this is just what he ended up with. But this is definitely at least what the effect is, the framing, what it does, right? It's not like a piece of photography that you would show somebody and be like, this is how you should be taking pictures. It's more of this is how you should be taking pictures if you want to make them look funny or undermine their authority, which is absolutely fantastic. I think they've got none, really. If their own people understand how little authority they really have, they're not going to have it for that much longer. But the point is, the thermostat being in the room, being on the wall. I think it's a thermostat. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like it, at least. And the light switch being in the frame also makes it into this not domestic photo, but a very realistic. It's not stylized in the way that you would kind of usually see with works of a lot of photographers, right? Which is only, like, I don't mind that at all. I think that's perfect. This photo, once again, when I saw people being like, it's so cool, like it's so cool tone. No, it's not. It's yellowish. It's literally piss yellow, girl. Come on now. It's just the cyan is also turned up to a fucking 100. It is a very funny fucking photo. What's funny about it is them trying to play the role that they're supposed to play as like this imposing figure, you know. They try to do it, fail miserably, but they definitely do try to do it. This whole this whole scene of this, I assume it's Marco fucking Rubio, whatever the hell his name is. He's trying to be so Succession here, you know, which is so perfect because that scene with the interview where he has to ask about, you know, reading Mein Kampf or being part of the Nazi party. It's so perfect because this is what these guys should go through. Why they didn't go through that kind of questionnaire is beyond me, but they definitely should be subjected to one. Anyway, these photos were really interesting. I think people people loved it for a very specific reason. It is a perfect time for it. It was perfectly unflattering, the way that people want to see them. The thing is, he didn't even have to do anything. He just had to take a picture of them and not try to make propaganda posters basically with them. Just take pictures of who they are, what they look like, and it's already funny as shit because that's how it is. Like, it's a good reminder of memento mori. It's a good reminder that they are also made out of, you know, blood, bones, flesh. They're also human. Which in this case is not like they're just like us, and more like, you know, I'm trying to be very cute and demure about the way that I address things from time to time. Okay, not me saying that after I constantly just say shit straight up. There should be, you know, you could make a compilation of shit that I've said that's so out of pocket. It's so incriminating, but you know what? At least I'm being real. And you're all thinking it. Anyway, we're all in this together. Anyway, oh, my little baby, my little dog came in and she opened the door with her face. Hopja! Pupsik. No что ты, no? What should I say that would be fun? Oh, you remember when I asked you about all the moments or quotes or things that you remember from the podcast that kind of like that you associate with the podcast, or I basically asked you, like, if I were to make something with the podcast, like a t-shirt of some sort, what would you want on it or whatever, and people like left comments with suggestions of like quotes and other things like that. I'm making something with it, don't worry, it's gonna be fun, I think. On a good note, I'm obsessed with this album by Jay Stevens. Her album, God, I think it's called Sellout. I think it's nothing deep or anything like that. Not at all. Actually, nothing deep about it. But it is a banger on top of a banger on top of a banger. It is a 90s to early 2000s type of R&B and pop, but the production is so clean and like 2025, 2026, because not because it's like sterile and weird and like devoid of all personality or something like that. I'm not trying to say that, but it is very well mixed and stuff like that. Because, you know, like when you watch something or listen to something from the 90s or the 2000s, especially the early 2000s and the 90s, you oftentimes get like really good songs that have mixing where it's really hard to listen to on new devices, where the mixing should be different to fit with the headphones or something. Fuck knows why, but there's like it's really hard to hear all of the production, or like the voice is too loud or too quiet or whatever the hell. It's kind of like having those melodies, those songs that are such bangers, but with modern production, in a sense of like it fitting with our devices today, so you could actually hear everything, and it's just so good. All the songs on it are so good. Let me actually tell you, I got into it through the song After Body, as one word, but I am obsessed with Him and Him and Him from that album. Girl, so many good songs actually on it. Total Sellout is a deluxe edition, I believe. Basically, The first song, Boyfriend Forever, a banger. Him and Him and Him, second song, banger. Precious, banger. Freaky, banger. SMH, but it's not Shaking My Head, it's So Many Hoes. And she has a lot of them. After Body, banger. Kiss It, banger. That's My Baby. I don't remember it right now, but I believe that I honestly went through all of the songs and I was like, oh, so it's like a whole, like the entire album is a banger. That's crazy. Choosy, 10 out of 10. Wet, Body Favors, Kiss You Back, Girls Don't Cheat, Better Boy, PDA. All of them are good. None of them are deep or serious. A lot of them have opinions and things that I would probably tell her to rethink. Not the ones where she's like, oh, I have so many guys or whatever the hell. No. The ones where she's like, I was cooking and cleaning and I was a freak, but it still wasn't enough for him, whatever. It's like, okay, so maybe don't do all those things to begin with, because what century are we in? Whatever. Regardless of that, absolutely fantastic album, and I think you guys should listen to it because you need to raise your mood, and this will do it. I believe this will definitely do it. Anyway, let's hope that Persistence is gonna come back soon so we can tell you about that whole Avatar thing. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if there's anything fun going on. And I'm gonna go kiss my little baby dog. Perchance let her out. Bye.